Time of the week once again. It is time for Geek Speak, and today we are talking about display advertising and what is it and how do we use it to our advantage.
That is
And
right. And will we introduce ourselves first?
yes, and so my name is Phelan, and I work at Seymour Digital Media, where we focus on SEO and Google Ads.
And I'm Rena Little from Littleworks Indie Media, and we run a little agency in Vancouver.
Awesome. And so I guess the place to get started first is going to be like definition, like what is
Yeah.
it even? And I know that when we were putting together the notes, it was like kind of trying to find some boundaries because like a lot of stuff is really
Yeah.
display advertising when you kind of get into it of
Yeah.
basic, it can be Facebook ads, it can be Google display ads, it could
Okay.
be
Let's wind that back just for one
okay.
second, because I
Yeah, yeah,
think we
fair,
need a
fair.
starting place before we expand it out. So typically, it used to be, or most people thought of display ads as being the kind that you set up on Google where you get the images. So the
Yeah.
banners and on websites, it doesn't have to be Google either. You can do it through other advertising platforms where you get Google banners and little boxes on websites when you go to visit them. So that was what display ads started out as, mostly because most platforms like Google AdWords and Facebook and all of those social media advertising places, they didn't really support. Uh oh,
Oh,
what happened? I'm.
I'm
This is just
I'm
me
still here.
now.
No, no, no,
Okay,
no.
good.
I accidentally pressed
um,
the wrong key. That's all. Sorry about that.
okay. All right. Back to my thought. Those platforms really didn't support images very well in the olden days, right? So,
Yeah.
so we really sort of think of that display ads as being a very particular thing that you either do through a web platform where it goes out on websites, or Google remarketing where it goes out on websites again. But we can also start to think about display ads as being what Phelan was getting into, all sorts of ads, because really the basics are that you are served up images, and the visual content is really what display ads are, I think.
Yeah.
And I think I we did a little brief look to see what other people were how other people were thinking about that online too, and it seems like that's the basics for display ads, whether or not it's visually arresting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think that that last word is the really important one is arresting because like
Yeah.
it's you going about doing whether you're scrolling a feed or you're going through a website that is trying to catch your attention to kind of be like, "Hey, remember those shoes you were looking at earlier? I bet you'd like 10%
Yeah.
off those shoes." And so
That's
there's going
right.
to be it's that like the idea it's like you're trying to get someone to like all of a sudden be looking at your content and then take
Yeah.
the action to actually go through and go over to the website.
Yeah, I like to call that, I don't know if this is a marketing term that I've just taken a liking to and forgotten, or if I just made it up, but interruption marketing. It's like
Yeah.
when people are doing their own thing. So, and that works really well. The way that I would describe it on Facebook is not so much you were on the site and here's what you were looking at, more like here's a problem that you didn't know you had. So you can also use it in higher up on your funnel to warm up traffic. So it might be, here you are, this is who you are, and this is what your problem is. And you may have already noticed that you have this problem, um, and haven't done anything about it, or you may not even have realized that you have this problem. And that is what will hopefully interrupt your scrolling enough to interest you to go and check out the website. And then you can be retargeted from there also.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yes.
exactly. Yeah.
So,
Uh,
to go ahead.
Oh, go
Sorry.
ahead.
So two things. I don't know. I was going to segue into the next section of that, which is beyond the definition. Did you have anything else to add to the definition before I co-opt and move on?
Oh no, it's I the only thing I was going to add was just that part of like yeah, thinking about it in terms of where they fit into the funnel and
Yeah.
getting making sure your content kind of matches that where you're you know you're
Right.
And so making sure that you're finding those people at those moments in the journey where they're like showing interest. And then now you're going to do
Yes.
like a, here's, you have an opportunity to be like, here's what people are saying about my awesome business. And it's like, you might have testimonials. Like you're kind of trying to match to
Yeah.
that part of the journey, and you're having ads that match that content as well.
That's right. That's super important. And that's done both through targeting the right people and then creating the right message for that person. So when coaches and marketers talk about niching down, you don't necessarily have to niche down your business, but you definitely want to niche down your marketing, how you
Yeah.
do the marketing, so that you have one very clear avatar, and they're at this point in the buyer's journey and they have these qualities that you can target for, and then this messaging makes them take action. That's what you want to be doing when they talk about niching down. I think niching down your business is the most misunderstood and thrown about term in
Yeah.
business completely, because it's, you don't have to just service naturopaths, for example, but you could create an entire ad campaign just for naturopaths, that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, like we have a client that does like Google Sheets, like building scripts and like building them into like really complex systems. And so he has like construction people that have like specific things out of it. So like while the service is generalizable to a lot of people, the problem
Yeah.
solving and who it is can be targeted to like a specific group of people, because he's
Yeah.
found that like construction people really good, they just don't even know that they have this issue. And it's like, oh hey, are you looking to save time and headache, with your
Yes.
construction business? And so like the ads
Yes.
themselves are niched versus the service itself,
Yes.
which is customizable to many people. It's just, this is
Yes.
a specific use case that you're putting people, showing
Yes.
to people.
So, a great example is, instead of saying, "Are you a contractor and want more leads?" It would be, "Are you a contractor and would you like to be doing more renovations?" So you would actually fix your messaging to appeal only to contractors and be super specific.
Yeah,
And same with the benefits. You can do that with the benefits and the problem.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
but we should probably get back to display ads, because that's kind of almost like we're doing it again,
Well,
sliding
yeah, but I
out.
think it's important for people to also kind of,
Totally,
because we're
totally.
covering how to think about it as well. Like when you're going to
Yes,
sit down and like, I'm going to launch a Facebook ads campaign. It's not just
yes,
like you're going to sit down and like, because that's a really good way to just give money over to Meta without you
that's
getting any
correct.
results. So the
Because Meta likes it when you're quite general. In fact, I found that when I work with their people on the back end, sometimes you get those little notes that says, "Hey, do you want to get some feedback from a Facebook expert?" And it's like, I always say yes, please, to see what they're going to say, if they give me any extra really great tips on the campaigns that I'm running. And sometimes it happens, and sometimes it doesn't. But what I find in general is that they want you to be as general as possible. Maybe because you're only running one campaign, which could be an issue.
yeah.
But I feel like making 100 really narrow campaigns is so much better than one really general campaign.
Oh yeah, because it's just a great way for them to fill all their, their ad placements that they need. Is if you, the more generalizable you are, the easier that
Yeah.
it's going to be. And it's also the same for Google now as well, right? Where
Yeah.
they've got a new campaign type where it like, oh, it uses display, YouTube, discovery, and Gmail ads, which were all the ad
Yeah.
placements they were having the hardest time filling, and they just happened to make it into this new campaign type, and it gives you no insights as to what's going on.
Right.
And so yeah, it's definitely one where I've there, Google and Facebook are trying to, Google's looking at Facebook going, wow, you really give them like so few options on what they can control. We'd really like that
Yeah.
as well. And so yeah, it's definitely, and but yeah, and so one of the other ones, kind of getting back to where what we were talking about, is what the display is like. How are we using it? And I think you kind of touched on one of the big ones that I know we use it for, which is the retargeting.
Yeah.
And so that's a really big one that, you tag someone with a cookie that says like they've been to the product page but they didn't make it to the checkout page.
Yeah.
So they did one action but they didn't take the second action you were really hoping for. Okay, and then you can serve people ads, and so that targets down again because it's niche. It's going to be targeted to people who are these people who have shown interest, right? They've been there, so
Yeah.
we know that they're interested. It's just maybe that you need to show them, a logical ad of like, hey, by buying this, you're going to save 30% at a time. Most people who purchase this product, right? Like they save a
Yeah.
bunch of time.
So you see it a lot in there are a couple of, I want to sort of tie in what things should look like, so it's not just conceptual, it actually has some grounding in
Yeah,
it, like,
fair.
so yeah. So what Phelan is talking about when somebody goes and makes a partial purchase, which doesn't really do anything for us, or if they show some interest on your website, of any kind, or if you've got a new launch, it doesn't matter if you're retargeting or not retargeting. This point is really important. What does the image need to do? And number one is we brought up this word, and I think it's the perfect word, arresting. You need to have something that's going to jump out. So generally, if you've left something on the website, then it's going to be that thing that follows you around. So if it's a pair of shoes, if it's a red pair of shoes, if it's the pair of shoes that you were loving, that pair of shoes should be following you around for a little while. And if it's not, sometimes I got one the other day that was brilliant. I've had it 3 times, and it wasn't in an ad in particular, but it was an email. So what I had done was initiated some kind of email um, that kept coming. It served me up, save 30%. 30% is
Mm,
going away tomorrow. 30% is going away today. 30% is available for one more day. And the
yeah,
actual image was arresting. Like, this particular website does not have sales of 30% very often, only twice a year from what I can see, because I've been following them for a while. So I
yeah,
want to make my purchases, if I'm a budget shopper, during those 30% off times of the year. I want to stock up on my stuff, right? So that is really arresting. It gets my attention. It's like, oh, okay, I got to do this now because I am a customer of these people, repeat customer. So that is the thing that speaks to me in my buying journey. The other kinds, a new buyer, what we were talking about before, is I've gone to a new site. I'm not really sure about this company. I've never bought from them before, but boy, do I love those red shoes, right? So those red shoes follow me around for a while, and maybe it'll warm me up. Maybe not on this time, but maybe they'll retarget to me 6 months later or 3 months later, or something after Christmas when I get my Christmas money. Maybe they'll decide to target me again, and that would be a top funnel retargeting effort, or maybe that's a more of a mid funnel, actually, when I think about it, because what I do in Facebook would be um, top funnel, and that would be getting brand new people that don't know that you have a website with beautiful red shoes on it that I'm going to want. And so what that needs to look like is also really arresting in the news feed. It needs to pop, or on Instagram, or wherever I'm looking at it. So it might be those really great red shoes, because if you have a product, it's a lot easier if you have a real sexy image of your product. That's going to grab people's attention if they're interested in red shoes or kettles, for example. That's another thing. If they want sleek design kettles and they are design forward thinkers, then as a marketer, I would target people who like that kind of design and who might be interested in brand loyalty. Then I would target those people and focus on the sleek design of the thing. If you're a service provider, you kind of have a bit of a disadvantage because you don't really have a sexy thing to show. But and one of the things that I think most people make a mistake on is they try and be descriptive, and they use stock photography. So using stock photography is not terrible, and sometimes that's what we start out with in our marketing efforts because it's accessible to us. But what you want to think about is being descriptive. Like, for example, if I'm selling Facebook ads, do I really want to show a stock photo? If I put Facebook into the search engine of a stock photography site, I'm going to get up those pictures with like Facebook icons and social media icons and things like that. Do I really want to do that? Probably not. That's not going to stop anyone in their tracks, right?
yeah.
But there was one really amazing campaign I saw, and I don't even remember what the service was, but they used these wacky photos that have absolutely nothing to do with the product or service or whatever they were selling. It was like they were brightly colored. They were like these wacko guys with these crazy hair. It wasn't weird or threatening or anything. It was actually just goofy is the word I would use. And that those photos popped out of the newsfeed for me, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. What the heck is that? And since they're targeting people like me because it was an advertisement, I know that they're targeting me. It's going to be something that's relevant to me whether I realize it at that point or not. So that photo arrested me in my scrolling, you know? And oh, there was a term that I saw on TikTok, thumb stopping. Thumb stopping. We want our images to be thumb stopping, and I
Yeah.
think that's just brilliant, right? That's the best way to describe what you want to have happen. So being descriptive is not always the best thing. um, Showing happy people, showing the effects of your service that will have on the person, showing people that people can imagine that they are. So you might want to consider diversity in your imagery. Um, um, Showing photos where people can insert themselves into the scenario, into the story, into the brand story, and feel the effects and the benefits of what you're offering. Those photos are probably going to be good. And then make them like, um, I think the opposite of what I'm talking about is, there was this big phase on Instagram where everyone, all the women, all the women mostly, were doing like beautiful, gorgeous photos of lifestyle photos, and they were either in the light blue hue or they were in the light pink hue, and there was zero brand differentiation between those accounts. So I don't like, as even though I think, oh, that's pretty. I couldn't remember which is which company. I couldn't, you know what I mean? Like there was no sort of unique positioning in that imagery. It was just kind of, and it was limited to Vancouver. It was a really weird Vancouver fad, that or trend or whatever you want to call it, that happened on Instagram. So, arresting images is really the game. Okay, I'm going to stop talking. I just had coffee and I realized Phelan's not talking. So, okay,
It's
Phelan,
all
do you have
good.
something to
It's good.
say?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was gonna say it was a fun pro tip. Like once you've set up one like that as well, you can also do one that's like a logical counterpart. So that one, like the
Yeah,
warm fuzzy feeling, and so say maybe
yeah,
that doesn't work, but you say, people that use my service save 10 hours a week.
yeah,
And so you're using much more logical, like you can hit
yeah,
hit someone if they don't respond to one type of ad, you can respond with a logical type of ad, and it's
yeah,
like customers, and it's like like some sort of like you could do testimonial, and it's like, oh, I've saved blah 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 by hiring so and so to
yeah,
take care of all of my accounting, whatever it happens to be. And so that way you're hitting someone with like the logical as well. So it's a
yes,
that way you can kind of mix and match, and then you're covering your bases, because not everyone's going to respond as well to something that makes them warm and fuzzy. Maybe they need something that's like, like I just need to
yeah,
save time this week,
yeah, yeah.
and how am I going to do that?
Yeah, and so in Facebook, I'm not sure if you can do this in Google Ads, but in Facebook, there you can actually create a whole bunch of ads under the same campaign, and Facebook will push them all out, and then based on the algorithm, they'll push out most the one that gets the better engagement or the better results. They'll start pushing that out more than the others. And so within a few days, if you wanted to do some tests, this is a great way to test. I test all of my imagery. That's where I start with. I test my images, which is the most arresting. And then you can finesse and optimize the display ads for their title and their description and all the other stuff. And then of course, we've had previous lives on this where you also need to address your landing page or whatever page the
Oh yeah.
ad takes you to, but start with the arresting imagery. Try a different selection, of course. Remain within your brand guidelines. If you haven't organized a brand, then perhaps this is one way where the brand can reveal itself. So that's the other thing. Branding is done ongoing. It's not something that you get done and it's finished. Brand includes a lot of things, primarily imagery and other things. Maybe not primarily. That's not very fair. So people think of the imagery first when they think of branding. They think of their logo, and then they think of the imagery that goes with their logo and their website and all that stuff. But really, when you test and tweak, your brand sort of evolves over time, and it should. You want to
Yeah.
remain consistent with your brand and work with somebody that knows a little bit more about brand. But but your brand, if you're trying to force the brand on the thing and it's not speaking to your audience, then that's might be a suggestion where you might want to change a few things. Like maybe your color palette isn't sufficient. Maybe your language needs to change because you're speaking like the best way of thinking about this is the language that you're using going to work with Gen Z or boomers? Because the same language is not going to work for both. That's all I know, right? So you might need some help working on finessing your messaging on your ads also. So display ads are really um, a lot. When we talk about display ads, we're talking about all aspects of most ads. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there aren't that many ads that are outside of the term display ad anymore if we're considering them to be about imagery.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like even as I said at the start, the Google's moving towards Performance Max, which is like very visually. You're putting in videos, you're putting in images, your logo. They're taking in a lot more stuff these days with the
Yeah.
Google Ads. Like obviously the text ads are still going to be the text ads, so they're just but that's a different one altogether because that's more intent based versus what we've been talking about, which is like arresting. So
Yeah.
like the so that's kind of the biggest difference is you're going to have people that are like going to Google and literally typing in I want to know about plumbers near me. And then that's where you're going to be advertising like I'm a really good plumber, I've been doing it for 30 years, right? That's a very different
Yeah.
setup than what we're talking about, which is more I need to take someone who's not on my website, not even looking for my website, and say, hey, I bet that I can solve problems for you. Here's the problems that
Yeah.
I solve. I bet you have them. And well, and you're hoping, I mean, that's why these systems collect like information about us because they want to know, they're going to make estimations on, things that are happening to us at that time. And they're going to do like some sort of predictive modeling. Um, and so, and there's like millions of points of data that go into it. Um, the funny part that I have learned about those algorithms, they're guessing a lot more than you think. So if you ever feel like, oh, it's spooky, it's listening to me, really what it is that they're like the Hadron Collider. They're just launching a million
Predicting.
data points and like they're going to get some like dead on and then there's going to get a bunch that are just off. And so it's not predictive. It's just more they're using the scale of the people that they're talking to is just so big that when you're talking to a billion people, it's easy to get your mark perfectly once in a while because like it's the number of swings that they're taking is so many. Um,
Yeah.
so and one other, just give me a sec. I had just lost my train of thought. I was going to say there was something in the. Oh yeah. Also, like you're saying about the brand, most people like you can probably change just about everything about your brand and no one's really going to remember. Things move so quickly and people have such short memories that you definitely have the opportunity to experiment with it and don't be afraid because you think that everyone's looking at it and remembering it really well. They're not, especially if you're the business owner because you're thinking about it
Yeah.
all the time. Doesn't mean everyone else is. And it's a
Yeah.
really tough one.
And if you scroll down on most professional like designer, I like to go to the designer Instagram accounts. If you actually scroll down, you'll see that they kind of do things in series and
Yeah.
seasons. So they might have like a bunch that all go nicely together and then they kind of transition out of that and create something completely else that's different. And the most important part is that there is strategy, thought, and um, a visual. a visual transition that actually happens that makes it really nice. So
Hmm.
that's pretty much what I have to say about that. And people do get really uptight about their brand. It's really funny.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's like, oh,
people.
you're not even big enough to really be doing branding. You should be focused on lead generation.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people, like when they get kind of perfectionists and they kind of like get in their own way, where they think that everyone's paying
Yeah.
attention, it has to be perfect out of the gate, and it's just like you really at this point you just need to launch and then just go for it
Yes.
and start experimenting, because what you think people want and what people respond to aren't always the same thing. and
Yeah.
uh, and display advertising, I know like Google display advertising is also dirt cheap, so experimenting with it really costs you, it's like 10 cents a click, and you can get
Yeah.
like thousands of impressions because the click-through rates are, it's 0.5% is considered good.
Is that
So,
right?
oh yeah, it's like I'll get like 20,000 views on an ad, and
Mm.
like I'll be like, yes, I got 200 clicks, and like that's considered to be really good. But it's like 20,000 people saw it, and so that's, it gives you a chance to really experiment because it is so cheap on their
Right.
platform. And also, if you do, one other thing to keep in mind as well is that Facebook does advertise on Google. So you may be running a Facebook campaign. You're also probably getting some placements on the Google Display Network.
Oh, I
They,
didn't realize that.
yeah, I won't go into it here, but there's something called Project Bernanke where they actually they got caught in a little bit of trouble because it turned out they were colluding and they were slowing all the
Oh.
websites down so that Facebook could
Oh
get into every
no.
auction. And so
Oh
yeah, and it turned out they were bad boys, and they were, you know, they're supposed to be like opposing each other, but then they're like, yeah, we're so big, why don't we just work together?
no.
And
Mm.
so but yeah, but yeah, so just to let people know that usually where you're going to see that is in the placements in Facebook. It's called interstitial. That those are almost always going to show up on the Google Display Network. So
Okay, I'm gonna look at that. I'm very careful about where I place my ads because I find that there are just some places that it just all it does, and in my opinion, what I've seen, most of what it does is to reduce the cost per click overall your campaign. It doesn't actually produce any clicks because and it reduces it because it's cheaper.
yeah.
But usually, when people are clicking in games, they're playing games. So if they click in a game, usually it's a mistake. Like they've
Oh yeah.
accidentally hit that button, and
Yes.
everybody
This.
does it. I do it all the time. It's like, oh, how did that happen? And you find the X, and you
Yeah.
have to wait for the. It drives me mental. But anyways, yeah. So that's good to know.
Oh
And
yeah.
then
Yeah.
yeah, and what was I gonna? I had a thought, and then it sort of. Oh yes, I was gonna say, do we have any comments, Phelan? Because usually they
I
pop
haven't.
up, and we haven't seen anything.
I haven't
Ah,
seen anything
okay,
that
good.
showed up on my side.
All right, then I also wanted to say, if you have done some display ads, Facebook ads or retargeting ads, then pop pop your questions in the comments below. Let us know what you were struggling on with the most, and we'll create some topics for the new year. And if you have any topic suggestions or any challenges that you've been facing as a marketer or business owner, pop those in the comments below also, because we are trying to uh, organize topics for next year, and we want some input. We want to be valuable to you,
Yeah, exactly.
basically.
Yeah. It's definitely, yeah, we're gonna be open to suggestions. I just had an idea. I might set up like a Google form as well. So if anyone has like any topics or anything, and just
Oh,
can
that's a
just
good idea.
anonymously just drop off, because all we're looking for is just like, hey, I think that this would make a, or I'm interested in this. What do you guys think? And so I'll probably create just a quick Google form just so that people can fill it out. And
Terrific.
yeah, because I think that would be a good one
Terrific.
for us.
Yeah.
I did. I did also want to say I wanted to touch on something. Now I remember that you had said that something about when you're doing the display ads, that it's kind of like the funnel, but it's kind of breaking down how to look at them and see what's doing well. Is like I start off looking with, did I get impressions? Yes or no? Okay, I got impressions. Did I get clicks? Yes. Is the click through rate, like, it's the dividing clicks by the impressions, the click through rate, is that good? Like 2%? Yes. If it's not, I need to improve the quality of the ad because it's obviously it's not speaking to the
Right.
person.
So for me, yes, that's the first step. if it's not speaking to the person, that's step number one.
Yeah.
For me in Facebook, we get an opportunity um, to optimize for landing page views. So
Mm.
that means that they'll only send it, if you want someone to go to a landing page, they'll only send it to people who have previously clicked links and landed on a page. And I find when I optimize for that, the numbers are better. I get better data because I don't really care about clicks in a sense. I do because that tells me that the messaging is correct. But if I lose the clicks through the landing page views, like if there's a huge distinction between clicks and landing page views, sometimes that means that your landing page doesn't land. It doesn't load
Doesn't
fast
load.
enough
Yeah,
and
yeah,
people
yeah.
move away. So that's
Yeah.
the first clue that there's a tech issue in your funnel. So that's my biggest tip for now is try optimizing for landing page views and see if that changes. If you're looking for clicks to something that doesn't include landing page views, I'm not even sure what that would be. I can't think of a good example. But you
Uh,
might, what would you click to?
you could click to shop. That's a new one. I just got advertised.
Ah,
So there's like because they have like the checkout in Facebook and Instagram, but I forget
oh,
the.
right.
Don't
That's
quote me
right.
on that.
I don't have any clients that are doing that shop on Facebook anymore, but that is true. So that in that case, a click would probably be fine and probably cheaper than landing page views. But
Yeah.
landing page views, I find the Google analytics matches up better. So the results on the Google Analytics match much better to the Facebook insights. And if you are waiting until the end of your campaign or to check your Google Analytics numbers, that's probably not the best. I usually check the insights, check the Google Analytics, so I can see what's happening and where we're going not quite right. Anyways,
Yeah.
we've gone way over.
We've
Like
gone over.
I could
Yeah. I
talk
just
about
want.
this forever.
Yeah, yeah. I as well, and yeah, but definitely, we're super excited to answer any questions people have,
Yeah.
and keep an eye out for that Google form for any topic questions or ideas that you guys might have. More than happy to take feedback from you guys in the new year for these Geek Speaks, and that's all to say that my name is Phelan,
And I'm Rena.
and that's it for now. Okay.
Oh yeah, do we have anything? Join us next week. We are actually going live in Facebook group, the Cyberpunk. What's Geek Speak Mark Geek? What the heck is
Yeah,
our
the
title
marketing
again?
mixer.
You got. I don't know why I can never do that. So if you're viewing this elsewhere, please join us there. If and We go live every Thursday with some tips um, for you, and that's all I have to say because obviously I didn't practice.
Yeah, no problem. That's it. Bye for now.